Well, hello. Long time no see. And let me turn on my loots. So, you're here to learn about my ooky spooky dating horror stories. You're here to learn about Mr. Fetal alcohol syndrome. Well, let's begin. I really want to preface this video in saying that I don't think that Mr. Fetal alcohol syndrome is a bad dude. I think that he has some problems. I just find this encounter kind of funny. And pretty much like 90% of the dudes on this list I don't think are bad people. They're just kind of weird. There's only like 2 people on the list who I think are genuinely like bad people. And so this date, with him, I don't really consider like I dated him. I just hung out with him once, but he was very like, he wanted to date me. But anyway, I still kind of consider it. So this took place many years ago. Like, I think I was 21, maybe 20. I was a lot more naive and didn't know any better. I'm a lot meaner to potential love interest now than I was back then. But, so, my mom used to work at a Home Depot in this little town called Richfield, Utah. And this guy, Mr. Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, also worked with her. And one day, for some reason, we went together to Home Depot to do something. I don't remember what. And he was there, and he saw me, and he talked to my mom, and they talked. And so, like a day later, my mom comes back from work from Home Depot, and she's like, "Hey, Jordan, you know that guy I talked with that one day? Well, he wants to, like, he's interested in you. He wants to date you." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." He seemed like okay and like normal, I guess. So, I was like, "Sure." And my mom, was like, "I don't really think you should date him. He's kind of weird." And I was just like, okay, like, if you don't know my mom, she can be kind of judgmental. So I thought that she was kind of, she's being judgmental, that this kid wasn't really that weird. She's judgmental. So I was like, you know what? Gives me more incentive to give this kid a chance. I wish my mother had used more adjectives to describe this kid other than weird, but we'll continue on with the story. So, one day, I hear a knock at the door at my house. And I lived with my mom at the time, and I went to open it, and there's Mr. Fetal Alcohol Syndrome. I did not invite him to my house at all. He just showed up completely unannounced. And I was just like, no, I know what you're here for. No, you do not come to my house uninvited by anybody. No. There's no way in hell this is not happening. And he's asking for a ride from my mom to go to this, I think he was going to night school, and he didn't have a car. He rode his bike around. So, because I think this whole him needing a ride to his night school was kind of a ploy to like get me out of the house and hang out with him. So, because I think it was closed, and he knew. I'm pretty sure he knew that it was closed and that he didn't need to go, and it was just like a ploy. So yeah, I ended up getting roped in. My mom was in the car because I didn't have a license at the time. So it's just me, my mom, and this guy. And one of the weird things that he did on the car ride was that he sometimes wouldn't ask me questions directly. He would ask my mom them. And then, like, respond. Or, ask them like I wasn't there. Even though I was, like, sitting right next to him in the car. Like, the one question I remember, the only one that I remember that was one of the weird questions was, he asked, like, what nationality my mom's husband was. And I could see, like, at the corner of her face, her make this, like, weird face. She's like, Filipino. And he was just like, and he didn't look at me when he said this. He was like, oh, so Jordan's Filipino. Oh, I see. And my mom also made another face like, no, Jordan's not Filipino. And I was like, I'm not Filipino. Like, that's, my mom's husband was my stepdad, my parents were never together. And another thing I forgot to mention on the car ride was that after every other question, he would go off about how his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, or I think it was ex-fiance, left him and cheated on him with her stepbrother. And so literally every other question he'd be like, I can't believe my fiance left me for her stepbrother. And I'm just like, this is some white people shit. This is some bumpkin ass country white people shit. No, hell no. So yeah, that was just kind of a weird thing. And so we get there and it's locked, and then so we drive back, and also more weird questions happen that I don't really remember that all that well. And eventually he asked me, oh hey, do you want to hang out in the park together? I was just like, I didn't, because I just wanted, like, out of it. I didn't know how to get out of it at this point, so it's just like, sure, we can hang out at the park together. So we're at the park, and more interesting things happen. So as you do when you're hanging out with somebody who's a potential romantic interest, you ask each other questions like, what are you interested in? What are your hobbies? What are your dreams? So I told him that I like to play video games. And he was like, oh cool, I don't really play that much video games. I was like, yeah, I have like an Xbox. And so he asked me, hey, can I have your Xbox? Can I borrow it? And I'm just like, no, you can't have or borrow my Xbox. I'm using it. And I tell him that, and I also told him that I had a copy or a couple copies of Call of Duty, and I'm not really into Call of Duty. I was like, oh, I was just thinking about getting rid of them. And he's like, oh, can I have them? Mind you, I don't know this kid, and I was just like, I don't know, sure, I'm getting rid of them anyway, so you can have them, I guess. And so he's like, okay. And we get to talking about, like, what kind of shows and, like, TV things that we like, and I said that I like anime. What's your favorite anime? Do you have one? And I kid you not, and I don't know what's funnier or sadder. I don't know. He said that his favorite anime was Animaniacs, and I just looked at him like, okay, does he not know what anime is and just assuming it's like cartoons or something? Or does he actually think that Animaniacs is an anime? I don't know. And I was just like, I was like, okay, and I think I was like, my favorite anime is Full Metal Alchemist, because I didn't know how to reply. And so and the funniest thing that I never ever tell people about when I recount the story was we talked about TV shows and what TV shows he liked, and we talked about Criminal Minds, and I said I like the show Criminal Minds, and we talked about the guy, the character Derek Morgan on the show, and he asked me if he looked like Derek Morgan, and I am going to show on the screen examples of what Derek Morgan looks like, just to paint a picture. And the next picture that's gonna pop up on the screen is some picture that I found when I typed in generic white guy. And I'm just like looking at him. I pause for a moment and I'm like, sure, yes, you look like a beautiful chocolate man. Yeah, this guy is whiter than the freshly fallen snow. Asked me if you looked like a beautiful chocolate man, and all I could say was sure, yeah, you look like him. And the way I justified telling myself that was that his hair was pretty close cut, almost like shaved. So, they both have like shaved heads. And he just was like looked away and just kind of like smiled to himself, like he was very pleased that I said they looked like him, and I'm just like, the fuck, bro. And I'm just like, I want this to be over. And so he finally takes me back to my house. And when I got back from my date, my mom asked me how it went. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I think that kid has fetal alcohol syndrome. And that's where his name comes from. And I go downstairs to get my copy of Call of Duty to give to him. And he's like, oh, I'm going to come over, and I can't wait to take you out to Arby's on our first real date. And I can't wait for you to see my mom and pa. And I'm just like, no, it happened, buddy. I'm just like, okay. And the next day he comes by, and I tell him like, hey, no. I told him I'm not ready to date yet, and I'm not doing it. No. And so yeah, I never spoke to him again, and well, apparently he kind of does what he did with me to everybody. He eventually got fired from Home Depot because he would ask a bunch of different, basically harass the female staff into dating him. So yeah, that is my story of Mr. Fetal Alcohol Syndrome. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it funny. And I am going to hopefully get another dating horror story out this month. And it's going to be viewer choice. I'm going to pull 4 names out of the spooky scary hat. And you'll get to choose from those 4 names which video I make next. So stay tuned to that. And the voting will take place on my Instagram. Link is in my cooter box down below. So make sure to, follow if you want to find out more about the misters.